Hi, it's Yetta Decker with the Decker team, and I'm with
Ken Decker.
and we're here with the inside track on real estate, and we're hoping you're going to learn a lot today. We're happy that you've joined us once again. And today, what are we going to talk about, Ken?
Negotiating.
All right, negotiating is one of my favorite topics. It's one of my favorite things to do. What about you, Ken?
I like it. It's one of the reasons I got into this business is to be able to negotiate on behalf of the buyer or the seller, whoever I'm representing as the case may be.
All right, perfect. So what do you like about actually negotiating?
Well, it's kind of selfish because I get a little buzz, a little adrenaline rush. Sometimes we stay up late to do it. Not so much now. We're a little more civilized on the times that we negotiate. Because what we found is after about 8, 9 o'clock, people don't necessarily make the best decision for themselves. So, and also maybe we're not at the top of our game by around 9 p.m. So we usually will delay the negotiating. What I really love about it is there's never one that's the same.
That's true.
Everyone is different. You have to think on your feet. You have to think quick. You have to gauge the person on the other side, how much they want the house, or all kinds of factors play into play. Sometimes there's more than one person bidding on the same house, and that can be a real exciting time. What I really like doing is coming up with a win-win where both parties feel they won. One party got the house, the other party sold the house. Both people figure they got a fair shake, a fair deal. And
it's even better when they both feel like they really did amazingly well.
Yeah, both of them won.
Yeah, exactly. That's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, because if you, I find if you beat someone up or someone gets beaten up in the negotiations and they feel they lost, when they come to the home inspection or something, they're going to try and get, not revenge, but they might try to get some money off, or they it doesn't always work well.
The whole atmosphere changes, doesn't it? Whether it's the seller or the buyer, they're just create some...
My goal is that after the transaction, in the person's firm, the two parties would come up to each other and say, good job, thanks for buying my home, hope you enjoy it, and we love your house, and we're so glad we were able to buy it, and both parties can come together. But it's a very awkward thing for people to do, is to sell their own home, because that negotiations, when you're in front of the person that you're negotiating with, your ability to negotiate depletes a lot. And so when we're negotiating, it's almost like playing a game of cards, a poker game, and it's the highest stake poker game that you've probably ever played in your life, because we're doing negotiations on a $300, $400, $500, $1 million house, $2 million property, commercial properties. These are high stake poker games, and it's interesting.
I don't think they're poker games at all.
Well, it is in a way, in that sometimes I brought in a client, and the buyer's agent who's bringing in the offer wants to present their offer. And that happens quite often when we have more than one offer coming in on one property. And so I instruct my seller, who's sitting in the room waiting for the other agent to come in with their offer. I say, this is the highest stake poker game that you've ever played. And in this game, you need to be unemotional. So blank face, no matter what the other agent says, whether you love the offer and you want to jump up and give me high fives, or you hate the offer, same face, blank. And do not ask questions, do not answer questions. I will do that. I will do that. What we want is for that agent to present their offer, and I'm going to do my best to get any information I can from that agent while he's presenting. And then when that agent leaves, then we can have a question and answer period, and you can jump up and down all excited, or whatever the case may be.
Whether it's happy excitement or not so happy at that moment.
Yeah. So that's where I say it's like a poker game, because straight face, don't give any extra information, and read the other the other negotiator on the other side.
Right. And so sometimes you would in fact allow for the other agent to come and present to you as a seller. And in other times the seller may have, we've had the conversation in advance, they would prefer that the offer is presented to me as their realtor and their representative, and then simply I do the representing to the seller. And so that just really depends on your comfort level, whether you want the other agent there. I mean, last night I did have a negotiation where, in fact, the agent had asked if they could present, and there was more than one person that wanted to purchase the property. And my client and I had decided that it was way better if they presented to me. Right in the driveway was fine. I mean, I stood out in front of the house and had the presentation to me, and then I could then take that information and present how and what I felt was in the best interest of my seller to hear and have presented to them.
Now, in that particular case, the other offer never really did materialize. It didn't show up, and the other buyer was aware that the other offer hadn't come in yet.
Absolutely. So honesty and forthrightness is vital as you're presenting potentially multiple offers. Never ever would I advise or would I ever say I have something that I haven't been given yet. In the scenario last night that Ken's referring to is I was told it was coming. In fact, I'd been pushed to meet them a little bit earlier, so I arrived earlier prior to my client even getting home from work to meet potential buyer number 2, and 15 minutes into waiting, thinking, why isn't she here? I did call her and say, so what's up? She said, well, it was just too quick. Her client had only seen the property yesterday, wanted to purchase it, was going to be a couple of hours longer. And so now my seller had a choice whether they waited for that potential second one to show up or go ahead and negotiate on behalf with the first one, which we did.
Yes, and you were very strong, actually, and you ended up getting full price for the property.
Right.
We can't talk about the property address or the names or any of that.
No.
All that has been changed to protect the innocent.
Exactly, because at this point it's pretty confidential information.
Yes. Now the nice thing was for that buyer was they actually had an opportunity to buy the house without competition and maybe have to pay over asking price, and they seized that opportunity.
They did. And
so it was a win-win for both people.
It was absolutely a win-win, and that's exactly what I did tell the agent when we discovered there was only going to be the one offer, even though I had been promised 2. We never say we have it until we actually have it, which is what happened yesterday. And yet the first buyer then, who had actually arrived first, and there is some thinking out there, I think, that whatever comes in first you must address first. That's absolutely not accurate. It simply needs to be addressed within the timeline that's laid out in the agreement that you're being given. So whether you're given the 11th offer happens to be the one that you prefer the most, that's okay. There's no requirement to accept first come, first serve kind of outline. It's really pertaining to how the original agreement or how the individual agreements are all written and what timelines are on those. So, yeah.
You know, Yetta, tell me let's look at the highest. What's the highest you've ever gotten over asking price because of multiple offers? It gets exciting when you have multiple offers, and we actually have a way of creating we have a form that we use to
we have strategies and systems that allow us to more often than not create more than one offer.
Yes.
And that's
that as well.
Yeah.
But we also have a system for our sellers that makes it easy for them to compare the different offers, because it's not always price.
No.
It can be conditions in the offer, there can be inclusions in the offer, it can be the closing date makes it better, things that the seller has to warrant or inspections that they have to go through that another offer doesn't have. I've seen people take less money with no conditions so that they didn't have to worry about going through the home inspection and maybe something being found or whatever. They just took the cash offer.
Right.
So we have a nice form that we fill out that helps our seller really narrow down on which offer is the best for them, and whether we even get more money after that, that's another story. But what's the most you've ever gotten over asking price in a multiple offer, and how many offers did you actually have?
Well, I think the most I've ever had on one property is 12.
12 offers.
12 offers.
Wow, so for a seller, that'd be exciting for me, but as a seller, that would be confusing too, to have 12 offers put in front of me at once. And I've actually heard a case where a for sale by owner person got more than one offer, countered both of them, and sold their house twice.
Right.
And we want to protect our sellers from doing that, right?
Absolutely. So we're going to address from a countering perspective, we're going to choose the one. If we're going to counter more than one, then we're going to do it by putting a condition in the agreement that keeps the seller in the driver's seat so that they could walk away if they choose to. So there are times where we would counter more than one. However, we're putting precautions and safeties and provisions within the agreement that allows us to do that, making sure everybody understands with clarity and conciseness and preciseness is exactly what we're doing here. So generally speaking, we're going to counter one. We do have different strategies that we'll utilize, especially when we have more than, two offers, then there will be different steps that we would take to attempt to generate even more dollars and better conditions and better terms on behalf of our client.
So under multiple offers, if we have 4 or 5 offers or 2 offers or 3 offers, what things do we need to disclose, or are we allowed to disclose to the different people who are bringing the offer?
Okay. Whether it's an individual we're working with directly that's bringing in one of those other offers, or whether it is another agent that's bringing in that offer, the only thing we can really disclose is the number of agreements that we've received. No details, no timelines, no terms, no conditions, no price, any of the content, no names, any of the content of the actual individual agreements is in fact confidential.
So the only thing we disclose is the number and when we're going to present them.
If we've chosen a timeline as to when we're going to present. Absolutely. In many cases now, we have at least a requirement on our agreements that if we're representing the seller, that the seller has 24 hours to consider that agreement. So even if we've agreed that we're going to meet, say, at 5:30 on Tuesday, which is what we did yesterday, we still insisted, as per previous request from the seller, that all the offers did have a 24-hour irrevocable, a 24-hour period of time which the offer was open for the seller's consideration.
Okay. So back to, you had 12 offers on one property, but
That's fun.
yeah, as a percentage, even, what would you have, what's the top you've ever gotten over asking
As
price?
a percentage over asking, it would be just shy, about 23%.
23% over asking. Wow.
Over asking.
As a seller, I think I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting. Now the market's softened a little bit, and so
That was just a few weeks ago.
Yes, it was. But the multiple offers aren't as frequent now as they were when it was more of a seller's market. Now it's more into a balance.
Well, depending on where you are again, right?
Yeah.
Let's continue to remember that when we talk in generalities, there is still micro markets where we're going to have extensive multiple offers, or a fair number of them.
So sometimes when someone gets an offer very quickly, we put their home up on the market, and we have strategies to get the momentum going very quickly, that all of our things roll out at the same time, the listing, the showings, the videos, everything rolls out at the same time to get some momentum going.
Right, the media, multimedia, internet marketing, paper marketing, all of those kinds of
Social
things.
media, all of that happens
very quickly within a concise time frame right at the beginning, so that we can really hit the market with a lot of interest and create a lot of interest by just a very progressive marketing strategy.
So sometimes a seller gets an offer within the first day or two, and they might think, either they get an offer that's maybe not full price, or they get an offer that is close to asking, and they think, maybe we underpriced our house. It's always a fear. Did I underprice it? It sold quickly. Did I everyone in the neighborhood goes, well, you sold it too cheap because it sold in 2 days. Or, we get multiple offers on a property, and they say, well, we must have underpriced it because we got multiple offers. Can you talk to that for a second, that fear of underpricing?
It's a legitimate fear. And yet, if we had gone the counter thought and nothing happened for 3 or 4 weeks, then the thought is, well, what's wrong with the house? So there's a real balance in interpreting the market and really pricing the property and being agreeable to price the property and prepare the property. I mean, that's so much of it. Have amazing first impressions. So when it first comes into the marketplace, it is as attractive and beautiful and out there as it ever will be. So if we've done that, if we're able to generate more than one offer, I would suggest that the buyers then, if it's priced right at market and we're getting more than one, the buyers then are going to be paying more, which is fantastic. And that's subjective value, right? Like there's no real, it's not an objective thing anymore, because even with multiple offers, I can show you time and time again, even with 10 or 12, that some of them, in fact, came in under asking price. Under what we were asking, and then others came in 50,000, 60,000, 100,000 over asking, and yet in the mix,
100,000?
yeah,
Wow.
and not necessarily on a high-end property either. It just really is very subjective as to the uses for that particular buyer. And so it's a real legitimate fear that if I sell it quickly, that I've underpriced it. And yet the market, as long as we've exposed it to a lot of people, then the market really has assured that that hasn't happened.
Yes, and we have systems and strategies in our marketing and the way that we handle offers that will prevent you from selling below market, because when the exposure is out there, if you are below market, you're going to get multiple buyers and you will typically get at market or above market even.
Right.
So we make sure that in our systems and strategies, our process prevents us from underselling a property.
Exactly, because it's very important that we're treating your money like it were our money. We want to ensure that if it was our house, how would we want it marketed? How would we want it to be represented? How would we want it to be prepared? How would we want the negotiations to go? Would we want it to last 6 months, 9 months, a year? And if it lasts that long, unless we're talking a real niche market, a really high-end market, there are situations where we're anticipating it's going to take a period of time to find a buyer. But in the more traditional segment of the market, that's not necessary. And in fact, as time goes on, you probably get less for the home than you would have gotten had it been priced correctly in the beginning, right? So there's a real risk in overpricing it, because chasing a market is never a lot of fun. That you always lose at the end of the day. So even if you have to be right at market or slightly below to get the activity, the amazing thing is the buyers in the market recognize that, and you're going to get more anyway. So you really, as long as you've launched it well, then there is no fear.
If you do it poorly, you could.
If you did it poorly and you kept it in your back pocket and you didn't tell very many people and you had one buyer in and they bought it, I have seen properties undersell, but only because somebody did not launch and effectively promote the property and market the property and attract the buyers to the property, and just simply took the first one. So that's the real fear of somebody just knocking on your door and giving you an offer as well, is that you have no way of knowing if you could have got a whole lot more if that's top dollar. It's a dollar, but it may not be as much as you could have.
And you may be okay with it. You may be happy with it, but it may not be the top dollar you could have gotten.
It may not.
You might have left some money on the table by not having a professional market and negotiate on your behalf.
Exactly. And really, it's not just leaving money on the table, it's taking equity out of your bank. It's really losing money that was yours to be had.
That's true.
And that's unfortunate.
People really don't like losing money, do they?
No. It's an unfortunate situation when that happens.
There's a saying that says people will work twice as hard not to lose money than to make money.
Exactly.
That pain is way worse.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's interesting industry we're in. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of competition for people who want to sell houses for you, the general public, when you need to sell your house. And so sometimes sellers will have a couple agents in to interview them and see what they think their house is worth, what the commission rate may be, or what we call a fee for service. What's our fee for our service? What the sales rep may do for them as far as marketing goes, and their reputation and their history and that sort of thing. So just before we came down to record this show, I went on the internet, went on the Ottawa Real Estate Board, and looked up some stats for our sellers.
Okay, so Ken, just hold that thought for a second, and we're going to ask him to hold that thought for a moment, and we'll get right back to stats and how we can show you that we actually get more for folks than is typical in the marketplace. And we're just going to introduce you to the show again. It's the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. And today we're having lots of fun talking about negotiating and how come we can create a win-win for our clients. So Ken, sorry to cut you off there, but I knew that was important just to challenge you a little bit on that.
So when people are interviewing agents, some of the things they're looking at are not necessarily what they need to be looking at. One is they want to know what price that the agent thinks their house can sell at. And ultimately, the price the house sells at is determined by the market and the seller.
And the buyers.
Yes, the buyer ultimately determines the price because they're the ones willing to pay it. But the seller determines where they want to sell their house at. And us as real estate agents, we determine whether we think we can get the house sold for that amount of money. And if not, we'd much rather turn them down now than let them down later after 3-6 months, asking for price reductions, the house not selling, and it just being a big fiasco. We'd rather turn them down if the expectations are not there.
Right. So what Ken's really saying is, if you're thinking of selling your home for $450,000, just to throw some examples out, but the real value lies somewhere around $400,000, and really what we're doing is interpreting the market, understanding what the market says, and so are you. We're looking at the same information, and so we really should arrive at the same price. We should determine that the value is what the value is, and with some slight variation because of the subjective value that we talked about. However, if we can't see the same answer, then it would be much better if we simply said to you, I'm sorry, we don't believe, based on what the market history is and based on where the market is trending and based on your competition that's out there and based on what was on the market that did not sell, that that's really the range in which your home is going to sell. And so what Ken's really saying is we would shake hands, part friends, and not endure a grueling experience for both you and us.
Yeah. And the other factor that they judge us realtors by is the fee that we charge. And it's common that some agents will offer a lower fee than maybe what we charge. And what I found is that an agent or someone that is in sales that can't protect their own family's income is very quick to give up your family's income when it comes to the negotiations on your largest asset that you probably have. They're very fast to give that up. So that's why I went to the stats, just to see what the average is for all of the Ottawa Real Estate Board and to see what the Decker team average is for sellers as a percentage of their list price to their selling price.
How do we do?
We did pretty good. The average for our sellers is 99.59% of their asking price. Almost 100%, 99.59. And we do that in about 24 days on average. Now some take longer, especially country properties and that sort of thing, but on average 24 days.
And we're taking into consideration that we don't only work a city market, we work a country market as well as a city market, we work a mid-range market as well as a high-end market. So when we factor all that in, it creates a fair bit of variation, obviously, but having taken all that into consideration.
So that percentage sounds great, but it would be faulty information if we didn't know what the average of the whole MLS is, right? The Ottawa Real Estate Board. And so I looked at that for all the agents, and the average is 97.37%.
Okay.
So that's 2.22% less than what the Decker team's receiving. So even
on behalf of their client, in terms of what they're selling the property for.
Yes, yes. So even if you have an agent that offers you 1% less than another agent who has high stats, you're probably making less money. And I think what's really important to you is that we keep as much money in your pocket as possible, and what we get paid is slightly irrelevant as long as you're making as much money as possible. So even if you paid us a little bit more and we're strong negotiators, you'll get more in the end. And the average days on market, 45 days.
Wow.
So we were almost half the amount of time to sell our properties, and we sold them for 2.22, that's hard to say, 2.22% higher than the average.
Wow.
So if you want an expert on your team when you're selling your family's highest valued asset, then you might want to give the Decker team a call.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've also got an offer for you today. We've just finished up our 2012 selling guide to the Ottawa market, and we'd love for you to have a copy. And you can call us and find out how you can get your free copy. You can call us at 613-860-4663. And operators are standing by. I'm just kidding. Our staff is standing by at 613-860-4663. And we'd love to chat with you and tell you how you can get together with us, and we can give you that free copy of that seller's guide. It has fabulous information in it on how to prep your home for sale, what closing costs you might look at, all kinds of great things in it. And that's a great resource that we've put together for our clients.
And those that want to become our clients.
Yes.
And so we appreciate that all of you have not had the opportunity to work with us as of yet, and we haven't had the opportunity to work with you. And obviously, that's something we'd love to be able to do. So if you'd like to explore that, you can reach us at our office, 613-860-4663. And when Ken said that the operators are standing by, primarily those operators would be made up of a team member, Karen, who is client care. That's her full responsibility, is just really to coordinate and care for our clients at the most deepest level that she possibly can, so that all the promises we're making here and in our day-to-day business are in fact kept. And then Helene, who's our media specialist, also keeps lots of those promises. So they would be here to be able to provide you those guides and any other information. And if you need to speak to us specifically, then absolutely they're going to get the phone to us. And Karen, of course, is also a licensed realtor and has been in the industry for, I guess, 14 years. So there's no one without a lot of expertise and experience on the team, which really allows you to win even at a higher level.
So you've been listening to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. And if you have any questions that you would like to hear aired on future shows, simply send in your question to the Decker team at chri.ca, or call us with your question at 613-860-4663. Or if you have a topic that you'd like a whole show talked about, if we figure we can fill a show with your topic, we'd be happy to do that. And we're just glad that you joined us today. And I'm Ken Decker.
And I'm Yetta Decker.
And together we form part of the Decker team, and we're glad you were here today.
With the Inside Track. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time.